We are live with another episode on the Koballa podcast. This is episode 5. It has been a while since our last episode, probably over 3 months since we last uploaded on episode 4. And we make our return. It has been a while, but I definitely wanted to continue with the podcast, but we've been quite busy here, and I haven't got a chance to really take the time to post content on this channel. And so I've been wanting to do it, but couldn't really make the time to be able to. And so I think it really relates to this topic that we're going to talk about in this episode, and probably get to share a little bit of why I haven't been posting as much as I've wanted to. And so what I wanted to talk about in today's episode is how I personally deal with a busy season. And so for me personally, a busy season would probably look a lot different than someone else's. And I could only share it from a perspective of a guy that's single, that's not married, doesn't have kids, but somehow manages to occupy his time trying to be productive. So I can only imagine the type of busyness that some people get when they're married, they're in a serious relationship, and they have kids on top of that. Because I can see it from a third person perspective, from my peers, from friends that do have kids that are married, how time consuming that is, how much of a commitment it is to be able to raise a child, especially from the baby stage going into the toddler stage. And I can only see a brief glimpse of what that might look like, and how much time raising a child really impacts your schedule, and they should if you want to raise and show love and care to a child, it should take up most of your time raising them and making sure that they're healthy, that they grow up well, into a healthy child, and eventually into adulthood. So I can only imagine what that type of busyness would look like. So when it comes to dealing with a busy season, like I mentioned before, I can only share it from a person that's single, and I can share you my perspective and how I learned to manage my time. And because I am single, it does allow me to be more flexible with my schedule, and I could really just fill in the time slots of what I want to do in my daily routine. So I'll start from the beginning of the year, and this really does tie into why I haven't been able to post as much content. And speaking on content, now that a lot of my commitments have been completed, it allows me to be able to post more videos, at least more episodes here, which I've been wanting to do but wasn't able to. And hopefully, maybe I could do some sort of like 30-day challenge where I could post like an episode every day for about a month. So I haven't been able to do these like 30-day challenges too, which kind of has been my content on this channel. Just kind of challenging myself. I have been challenging myself in other ways, but I kind of ran out of those 30-day challenges to do. Really just ran out of ideas. But at the same time, the commitments and the challenges that I've invested in this year of 2024 extends longer than just a month period. And I'll go deep into that. I have shared kind of like my goals that I wanted to achieve for this year. So the things that I've been challenging myself or spending a lot of time in does tie into those goals. And so from the beginning of the year to this point in June of 2024, I did have several goals that I have in mind. One being that I wanted to get back into doing martial arts, specifically Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I've trained before prior to previous gyms. I took a little break for a couple years and got myself back into it with the hopes of being promoted to the next belt level. And so, if you guys don't know, in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's 5 belt levels. There's white belt, where you start off, goes to blue, purple, brown, and black. And so right now I'm at white, and the goal is to get to blue. I want to push myself and try to get it by the end of the year. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It may be possible, it may not be. Um, but I will definitely put in the work. So that, for one, has been taking some of my time. So I would say there's a big portion of my day where I work, which we all do as adults. Big portion of our day, huge chunk, probably 8-hour day work. Well, it varies for me personally, but let's say for the guy working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours full time, uh, it's around that range for me too. And so that's a big chunk of my day. So usually before my workday starts, I would start off with training jiu-jitsu, and I would train about 2 to 3 times a week. And there's some early morning sessions where sometimes I would go where it starts from 5:30 to 6:30, and usually I would do those if I'm unable to attend like the 9 a.m. class, the 9 to 10 a.m. class. So I'll usually shoot for those, but sometimes with my work schedule or things that come up with meetings early in the morning, I would have to resort to the 5:30 classes if I'm not able to do the 9 a.m. ones, just to make sure I get my 2 to 3 days a week of training. And so there's that. That's in my schedule. And I want to discuss that. I want to kind of break down my schedule just so you could see kind of like the busyness of my own life and how much time has been occupied, and and then I could go on of how I personally been able to manage through kind of like that busy schedule, that busy season that I've kind of set for myself. Um, and so, yeah, a lot of times I would start off with, or at least 2 or 3 days out of the week, I'd start off with training in jiu-jitsu, and then I go straight into work, whatever work stuff I need to do, meeting with clients, having meetings, phone calls, or going out into the field for my line of work. And usually, um, that I'd work, from the morning after training, all the way into the evening. And it would vary on when I would end, anywhere from like 4 to 7 in that time range in the afternoon to the evening. And usually, I have commitments with like community service, with my church, with church activities. So that's a big part of my community, and I find ways to give back to my community, and so I have those commitments that I do where I provide community service, whether it's teaching or volunteer work, uh, on whatever events are kind of set up to either help like the city. There's all different types of volunteer opportunities that my church provides. So usually that's in the evening, and that would be like maybe 2 to 3 times out of the week, and that's usually in the evenings for weeknights. Sometimes it would be Mondays or Wednesdays, where right after work I would commit to these volunteer opportunities that I've served in, and sometimes it takes up time during the weekend as well. So uh, there's those commitments that I have. I've also had commitments with my family, a lot of personal things with um, that kind of like my family asked of me, that kind of I agreed um, to help up on, and it's a bit personal. Um, so I'll just leave it at that. But that also consumes my time too, kind of the commitments that I've obliged to uh, with my parents, specifically um, my dad, and his schooling that he's been partaking in, just trying to help him out with that. Um, and so that also takes time. Sometimes in the mornings, while I'm working, if there isn't much work to do, I can set aside time um, to help him with the commitment that I agreed upon with him, and also sometimes during the night too. In the evenings, if I do have free time, just to help him out there, and other family commitments that I have. So there's that, and then on top of the jiu-jitsu, I also exercise, do other types of exercises. Sometimes I would run. Sometimes I would play basketball once or twice a week, um, or even play soccer. So it varies in terms of the other activities other than the jiu-jitsu. I definitely make the jiu-jitsu priority because I really want to promote to the next belt and progress and get better. So that's a big goal of mine. And then you have the basketball and the running. It's just, and the working out. It's just other extracurricular activities for myself, just to make sure I stay healthy, and just like fun activities to do to make sure like I just stay in shape, or just kind of hang out with uh, people um, that have those interests in those specific exercises or sports. And so sometimes that would be on the weekends, maybe like Saturday morning playing basketball with my friends, or sometimes it could be um, like a weeknight. Um, so it varies, but I would add that in there into my schedule as well. Um, and also I have other types of like side projects, side hustles that I do, especially with content creating. So sometimes I would invest into that, whether it's like video editing or it could be streaming, which I kind of invested in the past couple of years. So I definitely put a little time into that too. And, you know, usually that would be on the weekends or some weeknights when I am available, when I don't have any other commitments. Um, Usually I prioritize obviously work first, the jiu-jitsu, the exercise, and the other family and volunteer commitments first. And then if I had some time, some spare time to myself, then I would be able to kind of invest in like the content creating area, which I enjoy doing. So I do that um, because I feel like there's something there that I enjoy doing that maybe um, it could turn into something where there could be growth. And so, and I enjoy it as well, as I mentioned. So, uh, definitely do that as well. And also, there's also a portion of my schedule where I set aside time just to socialize, just to hang out with my friends and my family, because I do value that as well. So, whatever free time I have, whatever times that like my friends are available to hang out, then I'll put it in the schedule. And sometimes that could be in the morning, or it really depends on how we coordinate with my friends and family on the schedule. And so that could be weeknights and weekends as well. So when I put that all together, you could see how packed the schedule is when you put all that together. And basically, all of those activities do fill up my schedule. And for the most part, those are all the things that I'm willing to do and I enjoy doing. So, I can't complain with the busy schedule that I have because a lot of it fills up with things that I want to do. And I am able, so I am able to manage through all that. But at times, I do see myself how busy, how time consuming, and how much energy is put out into all these activities. And I do see myself at times where I could be a little overwhelmed because so many things going on and so many things that I want to do. And even with the filled schedule, like there's so many other things that I would like to do too. But I know realistically, you only have 24 hours in a day, say 7 days a week. So you're pretty limited on what you could fill your schedule with. And just reflecting on some of the things that I already filled up with in my time slot, it doesn't leave a lot of room for anything else. And actually, to add on to that, if I were to add the socializing aspect, which consumes of hanging out with friends and family and all that, I would also add on to that is probably dating and meeting new people. So that's also been another goal of mine, was to put more effort into my dating life and to possibly find someone that I could be in a serious relationship with. Being at my age at 32, I felt compelled in the beginning of the year that maybe I should put forth more effort in this area of my life. And so even something like dating and meeting new people, that's also consumed a lot of my time as well. A lot of weeknights and weekends as well, just meeting new people. And so, definitely a big part of my life, and definitely has consumed my time and money. And um, yeah, I wouldn't say so. I would just say it's not that I haven't put effort in years prior and even the year before, but it's kind of I've kind of been a little bit more intentional and kind of making it a goal in that pursuit as well. So you add that into it, that's a lot of things to kind of juggle with and be able to manage through. And from the beginning of the year up to this point, I have felt at times kind of overwhelmed and kind of burnt out a little bit, and having to juggle through all these commitments and kind of pushing towards like the goals that I set for myself. It has been exhausting at times. I have felt it, and I just kind of felt overwhelmed, and I was wondering, man, like, am I doing too much here? A lot of times I do feel tired, and on one hand, like, I do feel good about being productive and kind of pursuing my goals and putting forth the effort. But on the other hand, sometimes I wonder if I'm biting more than I could chew. And so, like, I even contemplate, like, if I should just cut back on certain things, which I would say, um like, I have kind of finished some of my commitments that I've agreed upon. So I have gone to a point where, like, some of these commitments would only last up to this point pretty much. And some of it is like the volunteer work, and the other is like the family commitment. So do those two areas definitely took up a lot of time. And I have realized, like, those are things that I was planning to complete at this point in my life. So right around the middle of the year. So once I've finished those commitments, it did kind of bring like some weight off my shoulders. So I knew that was something important to do because as I mentioned, it just kind of got overwhelming with, like, honoring those commitments, because I only have so much energy and time throughout the day. And I think it would, when I finish those commitments, is kind of, it would allow me to invest more time into things that I want to do for myself, or maybe some more time, like, just to rest a bit more, because I think that's important too. And even with the busy schedule that I have, I definitely also prioritize sleep as well, making sure that I get my 7 to 8 hours too, to kind of to be able to optimize like my energy level. Because I know if I slept less than that, it'd be pretty difficult to operate throughout the day. And I'm a guy that doesn't really rely too much on caffeine. Usually I would drink caffeine in the beginning half of the day. Um, like, I would only drink coffee like 2 to 3 times a week. And sometimes I drink it just because I'm hanging out with someone. If I'm out, we're just chatting at a coffee shop, or if I'm lacking some sleep, I'm a little sleep deprived, then I would take coffee if I know that maybe um, I wouldn't be able to have like a nap in the middle of the day. Um, so those would be the only times, but for the most part, I usually don't. I limit my coffee or my caffeine intake. So, which, which does lead to a bit of sensitivity to caffeine. Um, but anyways, uh, yeah, I think it's important to have that rest. Making sure um, I get enough sleep to have enough energy throughout the day to be able to do these things. And to go, so, I get all that rest. Um, and I think I was talking about how some commitments you finish and then you kind of wonder like what you want to do with that time that you've been doing, honoring those commitments, doing those other things. And so that's something that I'm in the process of kind of figuring out. And uh, yeah, I think it would also allow me to make more content in this channel. So, having said that, with all the busy schedule and all the busy season that I have for this year and all the goals that I want to pursue, um, this creating this content and like having this podcast episodes and trying to make more content here, I had to put it on the back end because I think all those other commitments were just that much more important, and I thought I could be able to set aside time to be able to do this during that stretch for the past couple months, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to. And so now that I have some free time, I'm able to upload this episode. So, uh, so I guess the main thing is after wrapping up and sharing my personal experience and my schedule is like how do I deal with times that I do feel a little bit burnt out and overwhelmed. Um, Man, just I think sometimes what helps is what has helped me recently is actually taking a vacation, taking some time off of work. I was fortunate enough to take the week off last week and just kind of travel. So traveling is one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and it really does give me a bit of rest and some energy, not having to think about work, being able to kind of break the routine of like this grind of pursuing things. So when I traveled for a week, I didn't have to think about work, don't have to think about jiu-jitsu training, but I could just kind of have fun and have time for myself, visiting places or eating good food. And so for my own vacation, I was able to go to like Chicago, Milwaukee, in the Midwest. So I was out in Chicago for a couple days and had a day trip in Milwaukee, and I do the typical like tourist things and eating good foods and visiting cool places that a lot of people like to go to. And for me personally, I like walking around downtown or the city and kind of embracing like the culture and like the scenic views and all that. So I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, and even traveling in itself could be very tiring, but at the same time, it does give me a lot of energy. It gets me excited, and I don't have to think about like the work and the grind of everything that I was back home. And so that kind of left me like a relief, kind of got me off this pressure a little bit. And that was really enjoyable and much needed. And then it did give me a kind of a boost when I came back home. Um, and even after the Chicago trip, I came back and went to Joshua Tree with friends as well. So I was able to relax there and kind of enjoy my time there. And so that week off was definitely necessary and kind of um allow me to rest a little bit, to recuperate, and to be ready for me to get back into my routine with work and everything else. And so now that I've come back to this week, I feel a lot better because I was feeling I was at a place where I was ready for the vacation. I was ready to go, and now I have to think about work and having that week off, just kind of traveling, doing really what I enjoy. It really helped revitalize me and kind of rejuvenate me and kind of got me ready to really get back on the grind again and kind of position myself back into the routine. So that's been good. That's really helped a lot. So that's one thing I would really suggest is just going on vacation, being able to spend time maybe for yourself or spending time with friends and family where you don't really have to think about like other projects or works that you have on hand. And so I think just kind of taking your mind off of that and just and being present of where you're at in your time off, I think that's really good. And I don't know if traveling might not be something for everybody. It definitely helps me. It's something I enjoy, but maybe people could use that time off to do other things that they really enjoy doing, um, just to help get your mind off of things and kind of allow yourself to rest and recuperate. So I think that's a big thing too. Um, I think in times when I didn't have the vacation, when I was just on the grind in that busy season, um, geez, I would even suggest like meditating. You know, um, I I definitely felt like I didn't do that enough because it's always like a lot of times it's just one thing after another. You're not really um you're not really thinking too much. You just following the schedule, one thing, one task, complete that, and then you go on to the other. And you don't set aside time for yourself. Like maybe just even like a couple times a week where you go like 10, 15 minutes where you go for a walk, like a walk in the park, where again, you're just not really thinking too much, but you're just being very present, appreciate like your scenic routes of your walk, taking deep breaths of like fresh air in your neighborhood or whatever place you like for walking, things like that. Or you're just like in your room or um just maybe doing stretches, yoga, like meditating. Like I feel like that's very helpful too. Or maybe like again setting aside time to maybe just want to read a book, things like that. I feel like setting aside time just to allow yourself to kind of just relax and not really think about anything, not think about your work or things that you need to do, but you could just calm down and just kind of relax and just kind of tune into like your activity that you're doing. Something that would kind of make you unwind a bit. And so I think something like that would help. I also think like exercising, working out helps to kind of release the stress as well. And so I definitely value the exercising, and that's definitely incorporated in my schedule too. Even something like jujitsu, as hard and as challenging as that is, I always like the feeling where you kind of push yourself pretty hard, where all you're thinking about is kind of your next breath. Um, Kind of think about the next position, the next technique, one thing after another. Just being present in that and coming out of it where um, you felt like you put your body through just a good workout and you have a sense of like a clear headedness. I always enjoy having that feeling, and that's also very stress relieving too because you when you go through the grind when you're working, like you have like kind of like a pent up aggression, like a lot of things build up, some stress, but you're able to kind of let that all out when you're exercising, when you're working out, when you're doing jujitsu, or whatever the case may be. So, definitely doing some sort of physical activity where you're pushing yourself is also beneficial in helping you deal with that grind, that busy season. So, I would say for me, those are the key things. There might be other things out there that that may help people too. If you're a bit more on the religious side, maybe praying helps too. As I mentioned, meditating, doing stretches, yoga. I think those things are very beneficial, and I'm just saying it more from a general sense. And um, yeah, those are all things that have definitely helped me. And uh, also having a good social life. I think when you're on the grind and you're going through it alone, um, like I think a lot of times you could just be stuck with your own thoughts, and while you're going through it, you could have like certain perspectives on how you deal with things. But I think even socializing and just kind of letting those things out, sharing like what you're going through, like some stressful situations, if you're able to share it with friends and family, that kind of alleviates the stress too, being able to express yourself and verbalize those situations, specific things that you're dealing with. I think having a good social life and a good social circle around you is also very beneficial too, and ties into kind of alleviating the stress of that busyness and grind. Because I've also been there where I'm just grinding, but I'm not really socializing as much. Um, and usually it helps having people there around you to kind of be able to share life and uh, just check up on like how you're doing, how your friends, family, how they're all doing, and just talking about it just really helps out with that too. And kind of all these things I feel like just really take part in not kind of alleviating the tension, the built up stress, so you don't get to a point where you kind of break and get too overwhelmed and burnt out. So definitely, that's why I definitely add the exercising. I definitely add the social hangouts, a good healthy social life into my schedule, because I know how important that is in maintaining my sanity, right? And making sure that that I'm dialed in, that I'm good, that I don't get too stressed out about things and too burnt out on dealing with the grind and the busy season. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Those are my tips and my keys. I'm sure everybody has their own, I guess, techniques or their own methods in how they deal with the busy season. If there is and you'd like to share, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I'm sure there's other things out there that people do to really deal with this busy season. Definitely dealt with it with the past couple months since the beginning of the year, and so now I'm at a point where there's been some transitions and dealing with adjustments, and um, trying to plot and see what it is like I want to do next, and fill in those free time areas with things that I want to do. So and also just making sure that I don't burn myself out. So hopefully you find kind of sharing my perspective very helpful. And if you have any input, feel free to leave the comments in the comment section. And if you have enjoyed this episode and content like this, please subscribe and drop a like for this video. And you can also hit that notification button if you want to be notified on when our next content drops. So thank you once again. I hope to post up more episodes. The goal is to put up an episode for the next 30 days. So we'll see if I could commit to that. But that is the goal. And so now that we have more free time, I'll definitely put more effort into putting more episodes like this. I think the only challenge is like what are some topics to really talk about, and maybe that's something you guys could share. If you guys want me to talk about a specific thing, then I'll be open to talking about that for a full episode. So in the meantime, I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.